Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Marcy Ivashku, UN Affairs and Partnerships Manager for the Americas and the Global Staff Associations. With me this morning is my colleague James Ayovino, First Vice President, Security and Investigations. James leads UNFCU Fraud Investigations Team and has been investigating financial fraud with the credit union for the past 18 plus years. Prior to that, he spent 20 years as a member of law enforcement. On behalf of the UNFCU Board of Directors, management, staff, and volunteers around the world, welcome to our first global and virtual presentation on steps to prevent fraud in a digital era. A very special thanks to the leadership of AFIX New York and FAFIX for their support in organizing this session today. I'd like to introduce Nancy Hertz-Soika, First Vice President of AFIX New York. Nancy, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Marcy, and thank you for the welcome. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Mr. Jerry Barton, President of FAFIX, that is the Federation of Associations of Former International Civil Servants, to this first ever global UNFCU FAFIX-AFIX webinar. There are 65 local AFIX associations around the world, and Jerry is president of the umbrella FAFIX Federation. We are delighted to have him here today. President Barton brings a deep commitment to serving retired international civil servants worldwide, and his leadership continues to strengthen the bonds within our community. Thank you, Jerry, for inaugurating this webinar, which will be an important source of information for all former UN staff and their families. I would also like to thank AFIX New York, especially Darshak Shaw, President of AFIX New York, and Velimir Kovacevic for organizing this webinar in collaboration with colleagues from UNFCU. So thank you very much, and I now turn it over to Jerry Barton.
Okay, thank you very much, Nancy. Colleagues and friends, as the president of FAFIX, I am doubly glad to be here today. First, that UNFCU is taking the possibility of fraud seriously and is informing us, since fraud avoidance starts with us, with each of us. And secondly, that AFIX New York has graciously opened the invitation to all FAFIX member associations and their members. So we truly are global today. As retirees, we've all worked hard for what we have, and it's important to keep it safe. Unfortunately, scammers are becoming cleverer in the ways they try to deceive us, whether through phone calls, emails, or even fake investment offers. I myself was defrauded of 500 euros on a visit to Rome, mainly because I let someone look over my shoulder when entering my PIN code when buying a ticket. And I know of other cases, for example, one where a UN retiree lost about $500,000 by not being careful with paperwork and not watching his bank account. So please remember, never share personal or banking information with anyone you don't know. Don't be rushed into making payments or decisions. Take a moment to check with trusted family members, friends, or our FAFIX and AFIX communities if something doesn't feel right. A little caution goes a long way to protecting our peace of mind, as does good information. Together, we can stay informed, alert, and safe. And thank you again to UNFCU and AFIX New York. I'll turn it back over to you, Marcy.
Thank you so much, Jerry and Nancy. So at this point, I would like to address some important matters. We will answer all your general inquiries at the end of the presentation. So feel free to add your general questions in the Q&A box, and please keep them general. In order to protect your privacy, we will not address any personal inquiries or content. So our senior member service representative, Nancy Francois Rose, and Maria Nicolaou, manager of our Long Island City branch, will be monitoring and publish the Q&A. In the digital era, as Jerry mentioned, fraud has evolved significantly beyond traditional scams. Today's cyber criminals leverage advanced technology to carry out a wide range of cyber crimes, including phishing, identity theft, ransomware attacks, and social engineering schemes. These deceptive practices target individuals, organizations, and even governments, often resulting in financial losses, data breaches, and reputational damage. As we age, our sensitivity to scams increases, and it's essential to take proactive steps to protect ourselves. In this session, we'll explore the most common scams that target older adults and provide you with practical tips and strategies to avoid falling victim. We will learn how to spot the red flags, safeguard your personal information, and maintain your financial security. James, please take it away.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. Start my presentation. All right, just confirm, Marcy, it's up.
It looks good.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me at today's webinar. My name is James Iovino, and I lead UNFCU's Security and Investigations team. So today, I'll be discussing ways to help ensure your financial security by protecting yourself from becoming a victim of fraud and scams. Now, as Marcy mentioned, I've been investigating fraud at UNFCU for almost 19 years now. Next month is going to be 19 years for me. And really, the fraud landscape has changed during that time. Back when I first started at the credit union, the fraud and scams that we saw were much less sophisticated and less complex than we see today. Today, with our everyday use of the internet in just about everything we do, and all of the online interactions that each of us have on a daily basis, it's just easier to commit fraud. And fraudsters have also learned that it's easier to fool their victims into giving away their money or their personal information than it is to physically steal it. Now, let's say you want to keep your home safe. You may go out and have a solid steel door installed with locks and bolts and crossbars. And this is so nobody could break that door down. However, if somebody then knocks on that door and says, food delivery, and you say, I don't remember ordering food, but you proceed to unlock the locks and bolts and remove the bars and open the door and you let them in. Now, did it really matter how strong that door was? Sometimes that's how fraud works. So over the past few years, there has been a significant increase in the number of scams directly targeting consumers. So it's more important than ever to be aware of the types of fraud that are out there. Today, we'll be discussing some of the common fraud schemes and how they work. We'll review some of the warning signs to help you identify potential fraud and discuss some of the practical tips to protect yourself and ensure your financial security. Now, although fraud and scams may be intimidating, there are steps you can take to stay in control. And I'm hoping that everyone will learn something during today's presentation that will help them become more aware of some of the warning signs of fraud and what to do to stay safe. So what do scammers want? Well, of course, scammers want your money, but they usually need certain information in order to get it. Now, social engineering is a term you may have heard before. It describes the trickery that a fraudster may use to get someone to do something they normally wouldn't do. It's defined as a non-technical method of manipulating people into performing certain actions or maybe revealing confidential information such as passwords, personal information, or credit card numbers. Now, we know the types of fraud that social engineers perpetrate as scams or maybe cons. And a fraudster will pretend to be something they're not to get you to part with your money or private information or both. Now, phishing emails are fraudulent emails which try to fool you into revealing protected information. Now, this same type of fraud can also come in the form of a text message. And these messages may appear to be from a trusted source, maybe such as your financial institution or another familiar company or organization. Identity thieves can send out hundreds of these messages in the hope that someone is going to take the bait. And many people are now familiar with this type of fraud, yet every day there are new victims who fall prey. Now, these fake messages may ask you to verify your personal or financial information, or maybe even provide a login ID or a password. They may mention suspicious activity on your account or problems with your payment information. Often, cyber criminals will try to encourage you to open an attachment on that email or maybe click on a link. This can install malicious software or viruses onto your computer, or it could take you to a malicious website. Phishing emails are sometimes not so easy to identify. So always check the email address from where the message originates. However, just remember, cyber criminals can also spoof or mimic the email address to make it appear that it's coming from a legitimate source. Phishing emails are normally sent in large batches to many people. So be cautious of generic greetings in an email. If you don't see the email addressed to your name, specific name, be suspicious. Also, phishing emails will often be written using poor grammar and with multiple misspellings. However, just remember that with the use of artificial intelligence, the emails are being improved and may look more legitimate than before. Legitimate emails would never ask you to provide or verify personal information. And be extremely cautious of clicking on any links or attachments in a suspicious email. Even if a link shows a specific web address, it could be forged. And many times, phishing emails will try to instill a sense of urgency. They want you to believe that you must act fast. So don't fall prey to these types of schemes. Take your time and scrutinize all emails and text messages you receive before taking any action. And finally, a phishing email could be coming from a friend, family member, or other acquaintance. And this usually happens when that other person's email account has been hacked. So now let's take a closer look at this email that claims to be from American Express. Now, this email actually came to my own inbox. So let's try to look at some of these telltale signs that would make me believe this is a phishing email. All right. At the very top of the email, it appears to say American Express, but actually there's a misspelling there. It's ARN. All right. Instead of AM, it starts that way. And then the email address that it's coming from is notifications 00026@optum.com. Certainly doesn't sound like that would be an American Express email address. Now, the email is addressed to my email address and not my name. So that's another sign. And if you go third line down there, the start of the sentence is with a lowercase k in the word keeping. All right. Again, another type of grammatical error in that email. They're giving me a sense of urgency. All right. It says to avoid any temporary suspension. All right. So they're trying to instill a little bit of fear in me. And they're looking for me to click on this link to update my information. Right. These types of errors are very common in phishing emails. But like I said, with artificial intelligence, these emails are getting better and better. All right. And just as I said before, always remember these same type of fraudulent messages can be sent in the form of a text message. So it can come that same type of message can come as a text. Now, if you receive a strange message, really never click on any links or open attachments in a suspicious email. And if you receive an email from someone you know that just seems unusual, or maybe it's something that you weren't expecting, be cautious of the email and maybe contact that person by phone to ensure that the message is legitimate. Uh, the best thing to do with a suspicious message is just delete it. And if you receive the message, maybe to your work or agency email address, notify your technology team. This is very important because the number one way that networks at large companies and organizations get breached is through phishing emails. Now, there are so many different types of scams that are out there today, but let's look at a few of the more common frauds and scams that, we have been seeing, fairly regularly. All right. In the online merchant refund scam, the individual may say they're from Amazon or PayPal or some other online company. You might receive an email or a phone call from this person, and they may claim you're owed a refund or maybe say there's fraud on your account. They'll likely ask for remote access to your computer, and they're going to direct you to download a computer program like TeamViewer, or maybe send you to a specific website to give them this remote access. Then they'll ask you to log into your online banking account so that they can process the refund directly to your account. Don't fall for this. Merchants don't need to call you, to process a correction or to issue a refund on your established account. And in many cases, the fraudster will make it appear that they refunded you too much money, usually a very large amount. And they'll tell you this was an error and that you have to immediately return the funds. Sometimes they'll threaten you with arrest if the money is not immediately returned, or they'll just make you feel bad. They'll say that they're going to lose their job if they don't get the money back. They could ask their victim to maybe purchase gift cards, to return the funds, and to provide the gift card numbers over the phone, or even direct the creation of a wire transfer to return the overpaid amount. Just remember, never provide someone remote access to your computer or let someone view your online banking account details. Now, similar to the merchant scam is the computer repair scam, also known as the tech support scam. They may claim to be a representative from Apple, Microsoft, or some other technology company out there. You could receive a pop-up on your computer that says your computer is infected, and it directs you to call a phone number, or you could even just search for a computer company online and get connected with a fraudulent website. Now, they'll say they've identified a virus or some other issue with your computer and will ask you to provide them remote access to the computer. Again, if they get remote access, they have the ability to steal any information from the computer, or maybe they could install malicious software onto your computer. They may even ask you for a credit card information to pay for the repair service. And that could result in an unnecessary or fraudulent transaction being processed on that card. However, this scam could also lead to many other types of identity theft issues. Now, maybe you're looking for somewhere to invest your money. Many people will search the internet to find an investment company. Or maybe they receive an email or see a social media message offering investment opportunities. But if you're not careful, sometimes these online listings can be for fake companies only looking to take your money without any real investment opportunities. So be careful of big promises of payouts, quick money, or guaranteed returns. Remember that investments are never guarantees. Be cautious if you're told to send investments to an individual person or to different accounts. Okay. With the excitement of cryptocurrency today, many of the latest scams will revolve around Bitcoin or some other type of crypto investments. And be aware of high-pressure tactics. Scammers will repeatedly contact their intended victims and tell them, they have to act fast or they're going to miss out on a great opportunity. So to help prevent being swindled, always conduct thorough research of an investment company before entering into any agreement or sending any funds anywhere. Try to rely on the advice of close friends or family, maybe who've had long-term experience with an investment company. And don't engage with a company solely based on social media posts, emails that you receive, or the advice of a newly made online acquaintance. Remember that in any of these types of opportunities, once your money is sent, it's nearly impossible to recover those funds. Now, fake check scams have been around for a very long time, but many people continue to be taken in by these thieves. And with today's, mobile deposit capabilities, it's even easier to deposit these phony checks. Now, maybe you've posted an online advertisement of an item for sale, or maybe responded to some offer of work from home employment. In these types of scams, the criminal will send you what appears to be a very legitimate looking check. Could be payment for the sale item or payment of your salary, for this new job that you just got. The check will usually be for a larger amount than it was supposed to be sent. And they'll ask you to deposit the check and return the excess amount to them by, some type of money transfer. However, the check is actually counterfeit, and if you deposit it into your account and you send any of the money out, it may take several days before that check is returned unpaid and all of the funds are removed from your account. And this is going to leave you with a loss. And since the checks are fake, there really is no way to recover any of the money that you could have removed from your account. Now, there are so many criminals out there today impersonating organizations, businesses, merchants, and financial institutions. And unfortunately, they possess many ways to fool their intended victims into falling prey to their schemes. Now, always remember that caller ID is not foolproof. Just as a scammer can spoof their email address, they can also spoof their phone number. So even if you get a call from a familiar phone number, it may not be genuine. If you receive a phone call claiming to be from UNFCU or any other bank, you should never be asked to verify or provide your account numbers, credit or debit card numbers, or online banking credentials. Think about it. They already have this information on file for you. They shouldn't need you to provide it to them. Now, scammers may tell you that you have to transfer money out of your accounts to stop fraud, or maybe withdraw money and give it to a courier to safeguard your funds. They'll try to make you believe that your social security number or other identification is being used in money laundering, or you must do certain things to clear your name or your identity. Should you ever have any suspicions about who you're speaking with or dealing with, online or through a call, end that call or communication and contact the company directly, all right, at a phone number that you know is genuine, either from prior contacts you've had with that company or organization, or go to their website and use the listed number there. Excuse me. All right, here we go. Over the last few years, mail theft in the United States has been on the rise. So much so that the U.S. Postal Service has issued many warnings concerning this issue. So what are the thieves looking for? Well, what they're looking for are checks, all right? And these are the checks that people mail out, to pay their rent, their utility bills, or for just about anything. These thieves literally go fishing for mail. They'll take a line or a string with some sort of sticky material attached to the end, and they'll drop it down into the mailbox. Then they'll pull out any envelopes that stick to it. Any checks that they find, what they'll do is they'll take and they'll change the pay to name and maybe even the amount on the check, and then deposit it into their own account. Mail theft has become such a problem that the U.S. Postal Service has issued warnings about it and recommends that consumers go directly to the post office to mail out any checks. Now, I would recommend trying to avoid writing checks entirely if possible, and to use some other type of payment mechanism, such as automatic or ACH payments, or using UNFCU's online bill pay services. Now, social media sites like Facebook and LinkedIn are convenient and engaging ways to stay in contact with family, friends, and colleagues. Social media can also be an identity thief's best resource for locating information about their victims. So always ensure that you set your online profiles and personal pages with adequate privacy and security settings, and also try to minimize the amount of personal information you post online. And always be careful with whom you connect on any social networking site. Remember that people, you meet online may not be who they say they are. There are so many fraudsters out there just searching for their next victim to commit another type of scam. So be cautious of online friendships with people you have never met in person. And always remember that a friend or family member's social media account could be hacked. So if you receive a message within that social media platform, like a Facebook Messenger or even WhatsApp, and you get a message from a friend or family member that seems unusual, use caution. We've seen many instances where a victim receives a message from a friend, to borrow money, and then they find out that that person's, social media account was compromised, but they don't find this out until after they send the money. And then it's too late at that point. The funds, are almost definitely not going to be recoverable. Now, unfortunately, over the years, we've seen some UNFCU members become victims of fraud when looking to apply for a travel visa. Now, fraudulent travel visa websites that offer cheap or fast application processing can pose a significant risk to travelers, potentially leading to financial losses, stolen information, and even travel disruptions. Now, visas and waivers are processed by the issuing government or possibly their contracted service provider. So no external organization can offer to do this faster or more cheaply than the issuing authority. Now, there are legitimate companies out there that will process your visa application, but they will charge more for that service. So be cautious and confirm the legitimacy of the website through the official government website for that issuing company. Now, unfortunately, debit card and credit card fraud are difficult to avoid. If you think about it, we use our payment cards frequently, and the information passes through so many merchants and card processors that it really can be easily stolen. However, there are some precautions you can take to help keep your card information secure. Please be sure to keep your physical card in a secure place and don't unnecessarily share card information with anyone. Remember that to destroy expired cards by cutting them or shredding them before disposal. And routinely monitor your account and card activity. The best way to do this is through online banking. And remember that you can lock and unlock your UNFCU debit and credit cards within your digital banking account. This is just in case maybe you temporarily misplace your card or you just can't find it for that period of time. Or if you can report that card lost or stolen if needed. And if you notice any unauthorized transactions, you can even submit a fraud report online and order a new card. Now, when shopping online, try to only use well-known merchants and websites to make purchases. It's very easy for scammers to create a fake merchant website and just start collecting card information from unknowing consumers. And when visiting an ATM, please use well-lit, high-traffic areas, preferably ATMs that are found inside a financial institution. And when it's available, try using contactless payments, either using a contactless card or registering your payment card within a mobile wallet, like Apple Pay, Google Wallet, or Samsung Wallet. These are even safer ways to make purchases. Now, to ensure the safe use of your computer or mobile device, it's important to follow a few basic rules. Avoid using public Wi-Fi for sensitive activities like visiting UNFCU's digital banking site or any online banking website. Many people forget about this when they're connected to free, hotel or airport Wi-Fi or any other public network. Publicly available Wi-Fi is not a safe connection for any sensitive website where a login is required. Now, passwords are always an issue, because we have so many of them. But it is important to choose unique and strong passwords. And I know it's hard to keep many passwords for all the different websites that we log into, but I would suggest that you at least use different passwords for your online banking accounts. Now, unfortunately, passwords often get breached, and cyber criminals, what they'll do is they'll try any stolen username and password to see if it works at any of the common online banking sites. So if you use that same password and username for your banking site as you do others, it could, your bank account could be compromised. So always make sure that your computer software is up to date, including your operating system, your browser, and your antivirus software. Regular updates help keep your device secure and running smoothly. And most devices can be set to automatically install these updates, ensuring that you always have the latest features and the protection. And finally, practice safe browsing. Try to only visit known and familiar websites and be extremely careful of any files or software that you may download. Now, it's important to stay vigilant so you can stay one step ahead of fraudsters. And being aware of these common types of fraud will help you do that. Remember that scams can target people of all ages and backgrounds, and everyone may be vulnerable to a scam. Scams may appear to be a genuine offer or bargain, and they're designed to trick you when you least expect it. So be cautious when dealing with people or businesses exclusively online, or if you receive an unexpected phone call from someone claiming to be from a known company or organization. Conduct extensive independent research of that person or company before engaging in any type of monetary transaction. And always use extreme caution before sending money to someone you have never personally met. Should you initiate the transaction, the money is most likely unrecoverable. And be cautious of suspicious emails. Remember that even a friend or family member's email account could be hacked and used to send a fraudulent message to you. And remember that gift cards are never an authorized type of payment, unless, of course, you're going shopping. All right. If someone initiates contact with you and requests payment in the form of a prepaid gift card, it is most definitely fraud. And if the offer is too good to be true, it probably is. Be especially cautious if you have a feeling that something seems unusual or suspicious. So often members, who've become victims of some type of fraud, what they report that, they felt uneasy about the situation that they were presented, but they proceeded to act anyway. Always listen to your instincts and don't be pressured to act fast. Now, never provide remote computer access to anyone, all right, or give anyone your online banking login credentials for any reason. Always monitor your account activity, preferably through digital banking, but at a minimum, review your monthly account statements. And remember that you are the best and sometimes only defense from becoming a victim of identity theft, scams, or online fraud. Now, I want to thank you for joining me today. As I mentioned earlier, fraud and scams can affect anyone, and since you're here today, you're likely already taking steps to protect yourself, and that's really great. But remember, not everyone may be as cautious. So please take a moment to share anything you may have learned today with your family and friends. And thanks again, and please stay safe. All right. I'm going to send this back to Marcy, and we're going to see if there's any questions that we may be able to provide answers to.
Mhm. Thank you so much, James. Every time I hear this presentation, I learn something new. It's just like really is something that we should do more often, raise more awareness about fraud prevention. There are some questions that have been published. Will the presentation be available online? And this presentation is indeed being recorded. So yes, it will be shared to the leadership of AFIX New York as well as FAFIX. It will be posted. I believe there is a limit of time. I think it's 120 days. But those who did not get a chance to join today will be able to see it. So thank you for that question. What antivirus, Catherine is asking, what antivirus software do you recommend?
Okay, I wouldn't recommend any specific one. I would just say to go out there and look, depending upon the cost. Sometimes cost does have an influence over what you will choose, but make sure that you're just going to any of the top name brands, all right? Not just some antivirus company that you've never heard of before. There are a lot out there that are well known. You could do some, searches online to find some of those, but please be sure that it is a well-known company before installing anything on your computer.
Okay. Diego is asking, are password managers like Bitwarden a good tool?
Yes, passwords managers are a good tool to manage the many passwords that we have. They're, like I mentioned before in the presentation, we have so many of them, and they're so difficult to remember them all. With passwords managers on your phone or your computer, there's generally one master password that you need to remember, and then all your other passwords are saved within that. It is a good idea to use it if needed. There can be, compromises of that information also. So you have to be careful with that. And you have to always make sure that the master password is kept secure. So, just remember those things.
Mhm. Ingeborg is asking, concerning mailbox fraud, is it safe to use the mailbox located one's own residential building from where the mailman or mailwoman themselves take letters?
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend more so that you go actually to the post office and use an inside mailbox. Mostly because if we're relying on the mailman to pick up and deliver mail. Okay, so sometimes things could get lost. We're just, relying on that mail carrier to take out your mail and then bring it to the post office and deliver it there. It could be lost in the street. And, so I would recommend that it goes directly to the post office. Um, you know, if we're speaking about checks, and as I mentioned, if you can avoid writing checks at all, it's a good idea. I know there are some people who cannot, depending upon the type of payments they're making. But then the next best thing is to go to the post office directly.
Thank you for that tip. Is it true that Apple is much less susceptible to viruses?
That used to be an idea that many people possessed, and at one time it probably was, and it was likely because there were less Apple products out there, and the fraudsters, they targeted the Windows-based products rather than Apple. But today there's probably just as many, Windows-based as iOS-based. There's many iPhones out there. So the fraudsters, they target everything nowadays. So you have to be careful everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. These are really, really good. The next one, can malware infect my computer or phone if I just open an email or social media message, but don't click the links?
Yeah, unfortunately, there have been instances. It's not as often, but there have been instances that I've heard of where just by opening up that email can install some type of virus onto your computer. So it's important to, try to review your emails before actually clicking and opening any of the emails. And if you're not certain about it, it may be best to just to leave it alone and delete it.
Good tips. Okay, the next one, can a public network be safe if I'm using VPN?
I would have to say not completely. Okay, even though you're connecting to the websites through the VPN, your device is still connected to that public website. Excuse me, public Wi-Fi network. So if you're entering sensitive information, there is a possibility it could still be compromised.
Thank you for that, James. Next one. Now there are credit cards that are so thick, they cannot be cut with a pair of scissors. What is another option for destroying the card?
I haven't encountered any cards that were that thick, but I could imagine that there may be ones out there today. I know that they do make some of the elite cards out there in, like metal substances. Yeah, if you have a very heavy duty shredder of some sort, or even you may have to go to, some Staples or something like that do have, those heavy duty shredders.
Yeah, I actually encountered that issue. And what I did is I reported my card lost and stolen so I can get a new one because I couldn't destroy it.
There you go.
Yeah. Excellent question. It's true. I did not know what to do with it. Even my shredder did not work. Let's see. And once again, the presentation will be available online? The answer is yes. This presentation has been recorded, is being recorded as we speak, and it will be available in both AFIX New York as well as FAFIX websites. And please spread the word and tell your colleagues and your friends and tell everyone to please view the presentation. Every time I hear it, I learn something new, and it's amazing to be able and empowering for us to continue to be thought about fraud prevention. I don't see any more questions coming up, but I do want to let Nancy or Jerry say some last words before I do my last. Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. And yes, I was involved in this business myself about 20 years ago, but it's gotten a lot more complicated since. I would just like to mention that in mail fraud, One of the important documents that every retiree has to file every year with the pension fund is proof of life document. And that document does have one piece of sensitive information in it, namely your signature, which has been compromised in some cases. And the digital way around that is to use the digital certificate of entitlement app put out by the pension fund. Over half of the retirees around the world now use that. And that way your submission is encrypted when it goes to the pension fund, and you've already gone through a one-time certification of your identity. So you don't have to rely on pieces of paper going down the mail chute and perhaps being picked up and taken someplace else. If you are still using paper, then and you are in a headquarters location, there are ways to actually give that paper to a deposit location that gets it directly to the pension fund. So that's just another tip on how to stay safe with that one little paper. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jerry. I had the opportunity to visit ECLAC. I think it was about a week before you went. And ECLAC in Chile has a very good process where the retiree does come in and they handle the whole situation from there. So it's another safe way. I wish all the countries had something similar in around the world for the retirees. Nancy?
Yes, I'd also like to thank you and James for a great presentation. It really does make you think, and to be very aware of your surroundings and all the use of the internet sources. I did like to add that for the websites, you can go to, it'll be whenever we finish the recording, will be presented to FAFIX and put on the website, which is fafix.org, as well as affix/New York at un.org. So those are the two places where people can find them. All right. Again, thank you very, very much for a very useful webinar.
No, thank you for the opportunity for us to do this very first monumental global approach. I really enjoyed this session very well, and I look forward to continue educating the retirees on fraud prevention, digital banking, and so much more. We have time for one last question. It says here, is Windows 10 still safe to use after October? I cannot install Windows 11 on my computer. Do I therefore have to buy a more modern PC?
Yeah, the problem is after October, Microsoft is not going to be issuing any further updates, and that includes security updates for Windows 10. And these updates can be very important because scammers are always, cyber thieves are always out there trying to, create new types of software that they can hack into people's computers and get into their operating systems. And, these computer companies, they create these updates to prevent that. And as I said, after October, those updates are not going to be available for Windows 10. So it could, present a compromise to that operating system somewhere down the road. So it would be, in your best interest probably to go out and get a newer computer that you can install Windows 11 on, so that, your software is always up to date and secure.
Mm-hmm. And I think we have one more. Some experts recommend two-way verifications while accessing websites and sensitive accounts. Do you have any comments?
Could you read it again?
Some experts recommend two-way verifications
okay.
while accessing the websites and sensitive accounts. Do you have any comments?
Okay, so multi-factor authentication. That's, generally where you have something and you know something. Okay, so you may receive a code, so you have that code that you have to enter to get into the website, and then you have your password. That is something that you have to memory that you enter it. It's always best if multi-factor authentication is offered, it is always best to use it. So it is a good idea to have it.
Yeah, and then with that, I just want to say thank you all for joining today. Thanks to our speaker, James Ayovino, as well as AFIX leadership, Nancy and Jerry Barton, and Billy Meir for all of your support. Your commitment to staying informed and proactive is the best defense against increasingly sophisticated threats. We at UNFCU are especially, we appreciate our partnership and collaboration with both AFIX New York and FAFIX in making this first global event possible. And I encourage everyone to stay diligent and contact us whenever in doubt. You can access this presentation from your websites. I believe Belimir is posting the links. But if you have further questions or concerns, please feel free to contact us. We have some toll-free numbers from many different countries. And also we have representative offices in Europe and Africa, as well as the offices right here in New York and DC. So do not hesitate to reach out to us whenever in doubt. We're always here to help. And with that, thank you so very much, all of you, for your questions, your participation. I mean, this was an amazing effort, and I hope that you came away more empowered to tackle any frauds that come your way.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.